Growing up, I didn't play much of the original Doom games, so going into 2016, I wasn't sure what to expect. I sort of knew the premise, just run around and kill demons, but since I never played the games, I didn't know what I was actually getting myself into. But from just watching the trailers, I was definitely interested as everything looked fun. And when I finally played it, it was. So after playing Doom the Dark Ages recently, I decided to go back and see how this game plays 9 years later and if my feelings had changed. The gameplay for Doom is as simple as it gets. It's exactly how it was advertised. You just run around and kill demons. To be fair, you're killing them in different areas across 13 levels, so it's not as repetitive as it sounds, but yeah, that's about it. The most important thing about this gameplay is that it's just fun. If you're familiar with the older Doom games, then you already know what to expect, but you play in a third-person perspective as tons of demons spawn in from all over each area. At first, all of this seems overwhelming, but then once you get the hang of how all of it flows together, it gets easy to get in a groove and start killing. On a first playthrough, the highest difficulty you can play on is Ultra Violence, and that's what I chose. So right from the start, I had to be focused because even the lowest level of demons can kill you in a couple shots. But I thought this was a good thing, as playing on this difficulty made the gameplay feel more intense and frantic, like you were actually the Doomslayer and the demons posed a real threat. On the other hand, if you played on a lower difficulty, then you would just run through every level with ease, where that could also make sense because the Doomslayer is pretty much OP. So regardless of which difficulty you choose to play on, you're gonna have a good time. Speaking of the demons, I thought there was a good variety of the different types of demons that you saw. As you progress through the missions, you're introduced to new demons, and those are mixed in with the existing ones from the prior missions. All of this sets up for a dynamic blend of enemies that requires you to be focused at all times. Of course, you can use any weapon to kill these guys, but not every weapon works best on each demon. Some demons get killed easier with a rocket launcher, while others get shredded with a shotty. No matter what you pick, knowing which weapon to choose to kill which demon all in the moment adds a whole other layer to this combat, which makes it that much more challenging and engaging. In a lot of games, you might use the same 1 or 2 weapons to kill the enemy, but with the nice selection this game gives you, that is never the case. Looking at the weapons in more detail, I'd say my favorite weapons were the shotgun and machine gun. Both of these weapons I leaned on heavy over the course of my entire playthrough. The shotgun carried me heavy in the earlier missions as it blows through most of the enemies with ease. Then the machine gun tore through all the fodder demons quickly. Even without modifications, these weapons are great to use, but when you add the mods to the guns, it makes them so much stronger. For example, with the shotgun you can hold it to do a charge shot, which causes big damage to even the larger level demons. Then when you take this mechanic and add it to the other weapons, all of them become a lot stronger and much more viable to use during different situations. It's worth noting that the BFG is by far the best weapon in the game, as it just melts anything in its path. But with this limited amount of ammo, I consider that weapon in a class of its own in comparison to the others. I think the entire weapon system used to kill the demons had to be well done, as the entire gameplay loop is focused on killing, so not having enough weapons or having weapons that are lacking would have ruined all of this. Thankfully, that was not the case. Speaking about the demons specifically, the devs did a great job in making them annoying as hell. Regardless if it was a fodder demon or a large demon, some of these guys just made my life a pain. In particular, there was a couple of demons that just made me want to pull my hair out. These rhino-like demons charge at you from far distances and are so annoying, as their weak spot was on their back, forcing you to dodge every time before they turned around. Then there was the floating cyclops demons, where they shoot these delayed attacks at you from a distance, but where they get dangerous is if you get too close they can bite you and almost insta-kill you. They really are that strong. The icing on the cake are the fodder demons with the lasers. These guys aren't hard to kill, but as you're fighting a bunch of the stronger demons, these guys spawn at the worst times and shoot this Godzilla hyper beam to shred your health. What makes the fodder demons so annoying is that their attacks pretty much track to wherever you are, so if you want to make it through these encounters, you're gonna have to keep moving at all times. And if you played any Doom game before this, then you already knew that. Within these encounters, there's power-ups that help turn the tide in battle. If I'm being honest, there was plenty of times I didn't even use them because I took too long saving them. Like during the fights, I would always try and save them for the strongest demons, but then I would end up killing the demons and forget I even had the power-up. However, when I did use them, it made a huge difference. The quad damage was my favorite, as that would make pretty much any gun shred every single demon, no matter the size or strength. One thing I wish was changed was the variety of the power-ups, as it felt as if I got the same ones over and over. Like I could only count on one hand the amount of times I got the invulnerability power-up, making it so I took no damage. Not a huge deal, but something I would have liked to see. Now earlier I did mention weapon mods, but how exactly do you earn these mods? Well, that was done well, as you would earn these weapon points and suit tokens that would allow you to add the mods and upgrade different stats that would help you in battle. You would earn the weapon points by just playing the game, but the suit tokens were items that you had to find hidden across the map. I liked how the game always gives you the option of where to allocate these points, as you're never forced to put points towards something you didn't want to. I already discussed the weapon mods, but the suit tokens help with minor aspects of the gameplay you might not be thinking about. This could be the movement, explosive damage, or other aspects. Whatever you decide to put the points towards, it helps when going through the fight, because being able to grab a ledge faster can be the difference between life and death. It's not hard to find these either, as they are all marked on the map with different symbols letting you know exactly where they are. In regards to the levels, I thought they all looked good visually, especially once you went to hell. The majority of the levels are nothing more than facilities, with them having a bunch of different levels and rooms, but even still, it didn't bother me much. I thought the colors all popped really well and everything looked exactly as it should. One thing I didn't like was that in a lot of the facilities, there's things that block your movement, which is already limited. It didn't have to be anything big, but there were so many times I would run into a crate or structure that was placed right in the worst spot as you're fighting demons. It was annoying. Nonetheless, the levels were all fun to go through, and anytime you went to hell, it turned things up a couple notches. Speaking of the movement, that is by far my biggest criticism of the game. The movement felt good, but I didn't like how there was no sprint or dodge. The entire game, all you're doing is just walking around. You're technically moving faster, but all you're doing is moving the analog stick forward. If you were able to sprint, then getting away from all the demons would have been so much easier. On the flip side, if you could dodge, then you could evade the long-range projectile attacks better. The movement limited what I wanted to do during the combat, and I didn't understand why this area wasn't fleshed out more. There are some boss fights that you'll encounter, but they don't come in until over halfway into the game. I wish that there was more boss fights or even mini boss fights, because a number of these is really that few. Even still, when going through these, they're all so much fun. They're way harder than anything else in the level, which makes sense obviously, but it actually makes you lock in more than you might have before. And what's cool is that it's not as simple as just spamming the same weapon over and over again. You have to pay attention to the enemy's movements and attack when you find openings. If there was more boss fights, this game would have been even better. In its entirety, the gameplay for Doom 2016 is really fun and addicting. Yes, there were some things I would have liked to see implemented, but that didn't take away from my enjoyment playing through the game. If anything, it's apparent that this gameplay would serve as the base for future games just on how everything is presented and laid out. If you were hesitant on playing this game, then don't worry, because the gameplay is definitely worth it. Now, when it comes to the story, who really plays Doom for the story? It's not to say that the story in Doom games aren't important, but when I look to play a Doom game, all I want to do is rip and tear. My focus is not on the story. Even still, it's pretty easy to figure out what's going on and why it's happening. But even with the limited amount of in-game cutscenes, you might miss some key points about the story. Thankfully, there's codexes located across each level that offer additional information and insight towards different characters and locations to help fill in the missing gaps that aren't told within the story. About the story itself, it's pretty simple, as you're trying to close a hell portal that was opened on Mars. You have to work with a robot to stop the person who opened the hell portal to begin with. As you progress through the levels, more is revealed and you'll gain a better understanding of the entire situation in its entirety. But I'd be lying if I said that you're going to be blown away by this story. This story does exactly what it needs to do. It entertains while still having enough substance that makes it worth your time to get invested. And for a game where its focus is on the gameplay, I think that makes sense. Crafting a complicated and intricate story would detract from the main attraction within a Doom game, but that's just my opinion. Regardless, by the end of the game I left feeling satisfied, like I got my money's worth and it was worth paying attention to what was going on. If there was anything I'd like to see change, it would be more cutscenes implemented into the game. In Doom the Dark Ages, there's plenty of them interweaved throughout the story, but in this game that wasn't the case. I think the way the team approached that game and its story should be the formula going forward. However, for Doom 2016, I'm good with what we got. The story for Doom is nothing groundbreaking, but it fits well within the game and makes you really feel like you're the Doomslayer. The stakes are made known, and even if not everything is presented easily, you can still follow along and get the gist of what the story is about. Overall, Doom is a solid starting point for a revitalized version of a beloved franchise. Having returned to this game years later, I still enjoyed my time with it, but its flaws stuck out to me more now than it did 9 years ago. It's apparent that this game is going to be the blueprint for how the future games would operate, and because of that, I was impressed with how this game turned out. For those reasons, I'm going to give this game an 8. I think this game is definitely worth playing, but after Dark Ages and Eternal, this is the weakest of the trilogy. But with me saying that, for a game to be an 8 and be the worst just shows how good these games really are. In the future, I want to replay Doom Eternal so I can have a fresh perspective on the entire Doom trilogy, so be on the lookout for that. As for Doom 2016, I would say go buy it, as you'll have a fun time, especially because it's always on sale nowadays too. What did you think about Doom? Where would you rank this among your favorite Doom games? Let me know in the comment section below, and if you enjoyed this video, feel free to watch one of my other reviews right here.